Welcome back to the I Jupiter podcast. I am Tom Franklin, your host, and today we have on Becca Dickens. This is great. This is going to be a really fun episode. She contacted me through email. I don't. Maybe she's seen the show. I don't know. And she was like, "Hey, I got this story. What do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're going to do this one." And she's. I spoke to her shortly before the show. She seems to be very. Oh, you hear that, guys? We are in Mexico. What are they selling? I don't know. They're selling something right now. Ahora. I know that. So, if you catch yourself coming back to the show and listening, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, there'll be a live show. Like and subscribe, like always. And, go into the Facebook page, go on the Rumble. I'm thinking about releasing a very interesting episode about something that we all went through 4 years ago in my take on the whole situation. Just kind of being a little bit kind of scared to let it out. But maybe you guys will give me on this episode. You'll be like, hey, go for it, guys. And I'll put it out there. So anyway, that's enough ribble rabble from me. So without any further ado, let's welcome to the I Jupiter podcast, Becca Dickens.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Hi. I didn't know if to say Miss or Mrs. because I always get those confused.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter to
I'm
you.
not
It's just a title. You're not married, so Miss, I think. So, Mrs. Dickens, Becca, for the I Jupiter podcast listeners, and the I as I call them, tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you.
I am a co-owner of Regenerative Life Farm, and the place to find me and all the things that I do is on regenerativelifarm.com. I'm a regenerative farmer, which means I don't use any chemicals or don't till, and we grow vegetables and sell them at 5 weekly markets. I have 275 chickens, and we sell eggs. I'm also an energy healer, and which I do sessions on the phone, and people can also on that same website. If you vibe with me at all, I would suggest you try signing up for a session where I read people's energy and then use intuition to try to help them remove energy blocks. And it's something I've been doing for about a year. I call it healing because what I'm trying to do with the farm and growing food is to heal people with food, and it just was a natural thing to also try to heal their energy. And it all kind of blends together. And so those are my two main focuses right now. My life has changed drastically from in about 2013. I was I'm right now in Illinois in a very small town where I grew up. And when I got out of college, I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Very big difference, culture shock from small town Illinois. And I lived there for most of my adult life until 2013. I was a big time corporate IT project manager. I did international travel for my work. I was, fancy traveler and a big time businesswoman and also a big time alcoholic. And
wow.
Pretty much I had relationships and some marriages in there, but I never had children, and I didn't really have friends. It was pretty much work and drink. And
Wow.
I stopped drinking in 2013 and began an awakening process. Albuquerque is a very interesting place to awaken. I think one thing about it is that I just remembered yesterday is that Albuquerque does not put fluoride in their water. It's one of the few cities that doesn't fluoridate their water. And since I found out about what fluoride does to you and your pineal gland and your inner voice, inner wisdom, calcifies and blocks that off. And so I filter my water now because the water that we have is fluoridated. I make sure to filter out all the fluoride. But anyway, besides drinking wine, I was at least drinking water that didn't have fluoride in it. So anyway, very long awakening story, amazing process, complete change of life. So I got divorced, left my career forever, gave up all my money, moved back in with my parents, like 50 years old, moved back in with my
At 50.
yeah, at 50, pretty much washed up. No, I had, cashed in my 401k. I pretty much had like no plan. But I thought I would probably go and join a monastery. I was real into Buddhism then. And I thought I will just, hang out with my parents until they die. And then I'll go be a Buddhist nun for the rest of my life. I met this amazing gardener, Jared, and we started farming together and figured out how to do it. It has been amazing since 2018, just building this farm and making it work and learning how to work with the land and learning how to heal myself with food. Anyway, I could tell all about that, but one thing and one reason I contacted Tom is that I have a story that I wanted to tell about awakening, and I just see like he was. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to get into, we can get to the story in a minute, but what made you decide to not drink alcohol anymore? Was there, I mean, I know there's a bottom of the barrel type situation, but even when you're there, sometimes there's something else that maybe some inner intuition, or like the big I, as I call it, the deep you, the real you. Maybe you had a conversation like that. What was the catalyst for you not for being sober?
Yeah, it was desperation, I guess. It was a bottom. I was the kind of drinker that I, every time that I drank, and it was pretty much every day, I would drink until I blacked out. And so there would be a period of time from when I stopped drinking to when I went to bed. Luckily, I didn't go drive around and go to bars and like end up in Nevada or something crazy. I just stayed at home and passed out.
Okay.
But there was a period of time, like for 20 years, I did this every night. And so I had a lot of missing time in my memory. And looking back on it now, I do believe there was some kind of, it's a demonic, some kind of spirit possession. Something was taking possession of me when I was not in my body. And so that makes it more miraculous that I stopped. But basically, it's just alcoholics do. I drank more and more and more. It was getting harder and harder. And there was one long weekend where I just binge drank the whole weekend, and I just didn't go to work on Monday, and just didn't go to work for 2 days. And those 2 days, I don't really know what happened, but my boss came and to check on me, and he called the police because he was worried about he said that my eyes were dead, is what he told me.
Oh, wow.
And so the police came, and I pretty much, was just like, well, I can't keep drinking. I'll just die. I can die. If I drink again, then I'll die. It was pretty much like, I'll just try it. So I really hated life, and it was pretty miserable for about 6 months, just because I had no coping skills. And but after that,
I think everyone does that though, Becca. I think everyone has something, whether it be depression, anxiety. They got to go break rocks with a hammer. They have to do something. There has to be a moment where you realize, you're at a certain job, you're going down a certain avenue, you're just paying bills, and you're just working to survive. And then, like I've said this many times, you guys know, anytime anyone finds what it is that they love to do, I'm super happy, over the moon for them. So this story that you sent me, now, is this the reason for the farming, or is just the reason for the turning point in everything in your life?
It was the reason for the turning point in my life, and it was like the time when the veil fell. I saw behind the veil.
All right. Okay. So
it's ever unfolding, but.
All right. Let me set this up a little bit. So, like I said, guys, she contacted me email. I read through it, and she's pitching her farm. That's great. I think if you can find it. Do you also do like electroculture? Do you do any of that?
No, I've heard about that, but we're not doing anything like that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking into this. We're definitely going to be chatting off later. You can tell me a lot about that kind of stuff, because I do. I want to do what you're doing, but for myself, and maybe some organic chicken eggs. We'll get there. But so she sends. By the way, everybody, Becca is the real deal. She is sitting on the floor in lotus position. She is not on one of those swivelly desk chairs. She is the real deal, legit. And so I was like, "You can sit like that?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Well, the best of luck to you, my friend." And so she sends this story. She's telling me about herself and that she'd be great for the show. And then she tells me this story, and I need you to go through like step by step. So what happened? Like this, walk me into this. How did this day or however long it was begin?
So pretty newly sober. I think this was probably I stopped drinking in 2013, so maybe 2014 or 2015. I was just starting to go out into the world. When you're newly sober as an adult, you're kind of like a little baby, just seeing everything for the first time. If
Wow.
being around other people who aren't drunk and just like having a good time, like walking down the street, it's just everything is new. It's kind of that. It's a wonderful time. And I had made kind of a tentative friend, one of the first girlfriends that I made. We were just starting a little friendship, and she invited me to go with her to a party. And it was an afternoon party. There were people drinking there. I had never been to a party without drinking before. So I wasn't drinking. Other people were, but it wasn't that kind of party. It was just people who loved each other and were having a nice afternoon together and a beautiful day in New Mexico. There was a woman there sitting. I was just starting to get into woo-woo stuff. I had stopped drinking. I was into alternative spirituality, but I didn't know very much. There was a woman at the party who just caught my attention because she was very unusual looking. She was very cute, really tiny person. She had on a little denim dress and a short haircut, like a pixie haircut. And I just thought she was real cute.
Pixie!
She was sitting
Pixie! Sorry, it's one of the people who watch about Pixie. By the way, please send me your email address. I'm still trying to send you your background. We have one of our ladies up here. Her name is Pixie. Pixie girl. She's from that area. I think she was writing on here too. I'm sorry. So she had a pixie haircut. It just, my brain exploded.
Pixie haircut. She was sitting in the corner and she was rubbing people's feet. People were taking turns and putting their feet in her lap and she was rubbing them. And I had never, I was so closed off. I would never let a stranger touch my feet or even see my feet. I don't know. It was just like, what is she doing? And I was just fascinated. I walked over there. She was a reflexologist. She was doing free reflexology on people's feet. And I heard her tell people things like, she would touch their foot and say, "Oh, I feel pain in your thigh, and maybe that's related to childhood trauma," and blah, blah, blah. And people were like crying. And I was amazed. And so I got her number and I made an appointment to do reflexology. This was like way out of my comfort zone, that I was like, I'm ready. And so New Mexico, Albuquerque is a funky town. A lot of it is on a grid, like the new city, just like a normal city. But there's an old part of the city that still has the curvy streets. It's not on a grid because it was just wherever people built houses. It's like old Mexico kind of style. And so the address that she gave me for the appointment, she says, "It's at my home. Come here to this address." And I was, cool. This is in the funky part of town. That sounds good. She said, "When you get to the building, there will be a big orange string outside. Pull the string, a bell will ring, and then I'll let you in." And I was like, well, that is odd, but okay. So I followed the directions, and I couldn't use GPS. It was the kind of thing where she said, "Yeah, GPS doesn't work here, so just go, don't use your phone, just follow these directions." And it was kind of convoluted, but I found it. Saw that there was a big adobe wall. So I couldn't see the house, just a big adobe wall. And sure enough, there was an orange string hanging through a hole in the wall. And so whatever, I pulled the string, I heard a far off bell ringing, and I waited a long time, maybe 5 minutes, and nobody came. And I pulled it a couple of more times. Yeah, I just see that on the mule trains. That's so cool on that comment. The old town is on the mule trails.
Yeah.
So I pulled the string. After about 5 minutes, a wooden gate in the wall opened, and standing there was this very, very small person, not the woman with the pixie haircut, a small person. I don't know, not like a midget, but I couldn't tell if it was a little kid or a woman. She didn't really have like boobs or any big boobs or anything. She just, I don't know, her proportions didn't look like a child, but she didn't look like a midget. She was an odd looking tiny person, and she was surrounded by chickens. Just kind of weird that I have so much chicken energy in my life now that I have 275. She was surrounded by chickens.
I'm working on duck energy myself. So.
Duck energy, good.
Yeah.
Her hair was soaking wet, long black hair falling around her face and dripping wet. And she was just dressed real normal, like Dockers and a white t-shirt and flat shoes. And she said, hi. And I was like, just so confused. We talked about, like, I looked at the chickens. It was just, I didn't know what to say. And I said, oh, I'm here for the reflexology appointment. And she said, she's not here right now. She's in the other place. Come inside and wait. And I thought, okay, she's in the other place. So we walked in. It was kind of a normal, like what you would expect. It was a converted garage on the house, like a reflexology. It had a massage table. I sat down in a very comfy, easy chair. And this tiny person, I still couldn't tell if it was a child or an adult, she hopped up on the massage table, which, looking back on it, I don't know how she got up there. It's kind of a high table, and she wasn't, her little feet were just dangling off the table. I could see her feet moving, but she hopped up on the table, and I couldn't see how, and directed me to sit in the comfy chair. And we talked and sat there like that for, I don't know how much time, but like looking at it afterwards, 45 minutes to an hour. I just sat there, and the reflexologist never showed up. And periodically she would say, she's in the other place. She'll be back in a minute. She's in the other place. And every time she said it, she would look up into the house. So it's like a converted garage. And she would look up a couple of stairs that went into the house. And just when she did that, I felt like there was something in there. But because she was saying the other place, I was confused. And I had a sense, I'm very intuitive, and I felt like there was a basement, and that the woman was somehow down.
Oh,
there
wow.
was some kind of, yeah.
That's
so I don't
scary.
know.
That's a little scary.
Yeah. And so we had the most bizarre conversation, and it was kind of like a missing time experience where it didn't seem like time was passing. I didn't feel any anxiety, which I had a huge amount of anxiety still at that time, getting over alcoholism. And I was also pretty uptight about appointments, and I'm sure I had other things to do that night. You know, so I had places to be, but I was fine to just kind of sit there. And we had this bizarre conversation while her feet were just dangling off the massage table. There was a tile floor, and the whole time we were talking, her hair continued to stay the same wet and continued to just drip on the floor, so that I could hear the drips hitting the tile in a weird way. And it's New Mexico, so it's super dry, like your hair starts drying. So anyway, some of the things we talked about, which is hard to remember, but we talked in a real normal conversational tone. And she said, I like to watch Sesame Street on my phone, is one thing she said. And she showed me her phone, and it was a flip phone. And so I said, what is Sesame Street on that phone? Do you have YouTube? And she said, no. And I go, well, what's happening on Sesame Street these days? Because I remembered it. And she told me some little plot line of Sesame Street. Then she said, I also like Emergency. Do you ever watch Emergency? This was a show I remembered from the 70s. And she told me the plot of Emergency. And she told me like a whole program she had seen of Emergency. She told me some other things, like I have a boyfriend and sometimes we ride the bus together. And she kept saying, she's in the other place. She'll be back soon. She's in the other place. She would kind of punch things on her phone and pretend and like say that she was calling, and she would go, come back, that lady's here. Come back, that lady's here. And then, but nobody responded. And I don't know, it was so strange. And I just felt kind of relaxed. And the lighting was beautiful. I think it was like sunset. And it just was weird for this period of time.
Can I ask some questions?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Excuse no worries. You're killing it. Don't worry about it, Becca. We're doing great. So her hair was dripping, and this is how long was the conversation for?
Like looking at when I was supposed to be there for the appointment and when I left, it was like 45 minutes to an hour. I probably got there
And
early, and
huh?
yeah, it was like an hour or so had passed.
And her hair was
Her hair,
dripping the whole time?
yeah,
That's so crazy. Okay, so she's bringing up a show like because I'm a child of the '80s. I used to watch Sesame Street myself. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's my shit. You know, and and then she's also referring to a show I don't know of. It's from the '70s. So this person is possibly some type of time traveler. You know what I mean? Like it's giving me these feelings of this, like somehow. But oddly enough, what year was this?
probably 2014, 2015.
And they're still on a flip phone.
Yeah, it wasn't it did not. I had an iPhone, but it wasn't. Yeah,
Wow,
it flipped.
because
Yeah.
they like died like what 2010, 11. I mean, if you really had a flip phone, if you have a flip phone today, you're like a gangster, but you're not going to be watching Sesame Street on there. I mean,
No.
there's positivity in having just a flip phone,
Right.
I understand because the draw of the internet, which you guys keep coming back and watch the show, but all the other ones, uh, but that is so weird. So she's referencing these shows from 30, 35 years ago, and at the same time, her hair is dripping wet. She's looking up, and you, for some reason, feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm recapping this. All right. So continue,
And
please.
I have always been good at reading people's energy. And I would say I didn't feel any kind of threat from her. And she was cordial in that she was chit chatting with me. But I didn't feel any warmth from her either. So she didn't, it sounds weird that she didn't feel like human quite to me. She felt like something different. And I was a little bit confused just because she looked odd in that I couldn't tell her age.
And was this when you looked back at the situation or in the moment of talking to her?
In the moment of talking to her, it's more looking back. In the moment of talking to her, I just felt a little bit dreamlike. So it was kind of just like where you're in a dream and you just kind of go with it. It's a weird conversation, but I didn't question. And the way I was, especially at the time, so uptight, I normally would have questioned, would have said, what kind of, crazy place is this? I'm supposed to have an appointment. And like, I felt no urgency and I was just sitting there. Eventually,
and the chickens.
The chickens. We're surrounded by chickens, and she didn't really explain them at all. I don't know what that was about.
All right.
The chickens stayed outside when we went indoors. So anyway, eventually, I can't really remember. She kept saying she'll be right back. She's in the other place. Finally, I just said, well, I guess I'll leave. And she walked me back out. The chickens escorted me back out. I went back past the orange string and went back to my car and sat down in the car. And as soon as I sat down, I was like, woke up from the dream and thought, well, that was weird. And I just pulled down my visor and looked at myself in the mirror that's on the visor. And my whole face was glowy. And I looked completely different to myself. And it's just like at the moment I looked in my own eyes and I don't mean like good, like I'm vain. I mean, I looked beautiful like an angel, like light pouring out of me. And
Wow.
just I said a voice in my head, or I said to myself, that was a human. And I think I said they were dwarves or elves or something. And when she was saying the other place, her mom or her other person, the reflexologist, whoever it was in another dimension.
So Pam is asking, do you feel she stepped through a portal and maybe that's why her hair was wet? I think that's what you're referring to, Pam. What is your
something like that.
What is your feeling?
my feeling is that it was,
Thanks, Pam.
yeah, I got to go in somewhere where I wasn't normally allowed to go, or she came out and the other person, the reflexologist, was still left in the other place. But the reflexologist had come out into the normal world to go to that party, and now this person was out, and so yeah, I felt like she was probably not human, and I had seen something, and it's just like the veil fell from my eyes, and just a whole lot of the lies of our reality, it just like it downloaded and it became clear to me.
Oh wow!
And it
Like
was
like maybe like a strange wet guardian angel kind of reached out into the depths of your soul. And I'm sorry,
yeah.
it's just welcome to the eye of Jupiter. So and like just kind of showed you what it was, like just reflected upon yourself, and then that same iconography is there when you look at the reflection of yourself in the visor at the same time. That is so interesting, because I've had one of those moments too, but it was upon myself being in the forest where, you know, like I felt the power of the earth and of God, and, you know, the majesty of the universe touch me all at one time, and just like kind of like went, holy crap, dude, you know what I mean? But like, I guess my next question would be, did you ever like go back? You know what I mean? See if they changed the string or something?
Yeah, I did not go back, and I have a theory about why. And when I've tried to tell other people this story, one reason I wanted to talk to you, Tom, is because I know you listen to weird stories. I have tried to tell other people this story, and one person fell asleep during
what?
And it's not a boring story, and I'm a good storyteller. He fell asleep. Other people just zone out or walk away. And I believe that I hear a lot of times when people encounter entities or something, they don't go back. And it's like the Bigfoot people keep going back to the woods to see the Bigfoot, but a lot of other things, people, did you go back to that house? And for some reason, I never did. And there's something that I did also ask my friend. So this is another part of the story. And I believe this is like the cover story of these beings, whatever they were. I said to my friend who took me to the party, I said, hey, do you remember that reflexologist who was at that party? And she said, yeah, I know her. And I said, I had a weird experience. What's their deal? Do you know her? Do you know the reflexologist? And I said, I talked to this person. I couldn't tell if it was a little girl or a woman. And I just told her briefly of the story. And this is what she said. The reflexologist has a daughter who is severely developmentally disabled. And maybe that was the daughter that you talked to. So she said severely. And I've talked to people who are developmentally disabled before. And
yes.
You can tell right away that they aren't as smart as you, but they seem normal. They're people. I don't know. They're
they're different. This sounds like such a you know, like some, you know, some PC stuff, but they're kind of differently smart. There's some of them. Yeah, some of them are like they see things that you may not see, and you're kind of like, that's interesting. You know, Cheerios are really good. I agree with you. You know, whatever. It's a joke, but at the same time, there's sometimes, you know, they'll say, you know, things like they're on the spectrum and things like that. But I think a lot of these people may see things that we don't see, that for some reason we might say is not normal. But I would think if someone says this person is severely, you know, mentally disabled, then they would be, you know, it wouldn't seem to be possible for them to have some type of cogent type conversation with you.
Yeah, and just if it was that severe, I don't believe she would have been left alone. Like that part was weird too. And she wouldn't just be alone in the house where a stranger could walk in. And just, you know, I could tell she was, yeah, and she wouldn't have had all the chickens with her. You know, I had no sense that this person was not intelligent. Even though our conversation was odd, there was nothing like that about it. And nothing, I would never have said severely developmentally disabled. It would have been, I don't know. I didn't get that sense at all. And I didn't really get a sense from this person, being whoever that I talked to. I didn't get a human vibe from her. It's the only way
what do you
that
mean
I
like
can
a
see
human
it.
vibe? What do you mean like a human vibe? What could you go into that a little bit? What would you consider a human vibe? I mean, you and I right now are having it, and I guess we could like break that down. But when you say distinctly not, that has to be, I think, a little bit more like teased apart.
Okay, there's a little bit of a tension with any human that I meet, and it could be it's kind of like, do we like each other or not? Is this somebody that I could cooperate with, or is this somebody I could have a conversation with, or do business with, or have sex with? Like when you meet somebody, there's always like some kind of negotiation where you're feeling each other out, just like dogs sniffing each other's butts. You're just kind of like meeting each other, and you kind of get a feel for what's going on with the other. And
Wow. Okay, I got you.
And there's
like a dog. A dog knows when a
Albuquerque,
dog's in front of him. Yeah, I
yeah,
got you. I got what you're saying. Okay, that's cool.
there
So
are a
I
lot.
have a. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break the. I'm trying to get used to the flow of doing lives. This is like my fourth or fifth. So we have a question from Magical Journey. Anything about her eyes that was different? Anything that was noticeable?
Yeah, I am a person who does pretty intense eye contact, and I do look in people's
Okay.
eyes, and I even notice people's eye color a lot. And she seemed like she was looking at me, but yeah, our eyes didn't connect. So I couldn't like quite catch her eye, like she was looking off to the side of me or something. And yeah, her eyes, they weren't, that's one of the human things. Yeah, that's something where you can look in somebody's eyes and sometimes you can go, yeah, I see you in there. I see you, that
Yes.
soul, other
Yes.
there.
What's even weirder wouldn't it be worse? I guess you would say, or not worse, but stranger. I guess you would say, if she looked like through you. You know, there's people who look through you, and she's like, "They'll be right back." I mean, that would be even worse. I think. Wow, dude, that is so crazy. So you leave out of there, you look in the mirror, you find yourself glowing, and this created a transformation for you. Maybe you can describe that transformation. Like, what did you come to realize about yourself in your existence?
Yeah, like that a lot of things were not real, and that there is a hidden world under our feet, or a dimension right next to us, that once in a while, it's like I got to see a glimpse behind it. But what I knew was that whatever she was, an elf is what I thought at the time, maybe because the other woman, the reflexologist, had such a cute haircut that she was an elf. That these beings are all around us. And I was working in offices at the time, sitting in conference rooms, and over the next several years, that became intolerable because it seemed like such a game. When I'd be sitting in a conference room looking at all of these adults in nice clothes, the women in high heels, the men in like nice shirts and maybe a tie, it looked like children playing dress up. And I felt like everybody there was just playing a game, and it was real silly. And
Man, that's so, dude. I've had that for years, where I'm like, this is, or you'll be like, you'll be working for some big multinational company, and they'll sit you down and like, we're all about your health and your benefits, and blah blah blah. Like, no, you're here to make money. You're here to make money. Stop. You know what I mean? Those kind of things. That's always occurred to me. So okay, so that was the first thing. So you're seeing through that part of the BS, the better said. All right.
that money isn't real, and that all of that is
Okay.
just pretend, that we're playing with monopoly money, and that it's not real, and that you can manifest anything that you want, and that there is no lack. It evolved over time. Like, not all of this was downloaded immediately. It was just like, what if everything that I believe is wrong? A big one for me is about food. I realized our food is poison, and almost everything I was eating was, making me not be able to think clearly. addicting me to sugar and making me sick.
That's the big one, sugar, guys.
Keeping me from being able to hear my inner voice. The fact that I saw myself and recognized myself as like this angelic being, you know, I didn't like the way that I look, and I was very, I had never seen myself as such a spiritual type of being as when I looked in that mirror, but it changed the way I felt about myself and about what I was doing in the world. And just like the way I was like, I got to see something. Now what am I going to do? And I started, Albuquerque is a very spiritual place, very odd. New Mexico is whatever, the energy there is very spiritual. There were a lot of, I was doing, this was in the late 2015 to 2020, well, 2017 is when I moved back to Illinois. But so for a couple of years there were a lot of meetup groups where it's just like an app where you can start a club. Albuquerque had all of these clubs. Like, here's all the people who are into aliens. Here's a club where the alien people talk. Here's a club where people are talking about.
Here's a club where the alien people play bridge on Fridays.
Yes. So I started going to all these meetup groups and meeting all of the weirdos, the space weirdos, the Bigfoot weirdos, like all the weirdos of Albuquerque, and found my people. And I had lunch with this woman. Yeah. This woman, she told me that I met people who said they were from Pleiades. I went to lunch with a woman who said that she was Syrian. And I said, you mean you're from Syria? And she said, no, the dog star.
Okay.
And I was in a place where I could, you know, in the past me would have laughed or said that they were crazy. I was in a place where I was open to it and I could hear that.
Right.
And I could, that's just as real as those people who were sitting in a conference room this morning where we were, you know, having a meeting about the meeting we were going to have next week.
Right. It's more real. It's more, I'd rather be talking about the dog star than, you know, next quarterly profits with a hedge fund manager any day of the week.
Yes.
Oh man. Okay. All right. So now you kind of hedged into the idea or the concept of telling other people. Has there been anyone within your family or friendship circles or maybe someone on the farm where they're kind of like, or someone who's known you when you were under the influence or addicted or your disease, however, you know, you would like to call that. I don't know what your lingo or verbiage would be for that, to now where they go, there's a definite change and, you know, so they believe you, or is everyone just like, you know, Becca's off her rocker?
Yeah, I have never been able to tell the story to the end to anyone but you. So thank you so much.
Are you kidding?
And this audience for the it. Yeah, nobody has ever heard the whole thing because one fell asleep. Other people, I was going on a walk and I told my parents on a walk and they walked away from me. And I really believe that people, including me, that we see UFOs, that we see orbs and light beings all the time, and our brains don't know what to do with it. And so they just shut it down. And I think when I try telling this story to people, yes, almost everyone in my life thinks I'm incredibly weird. For one thing, I left my whole family who were in Illinois. I left them and became an alcoholic, and I only visited at home. But I was very cold and shut down most of my adult life. Now I come home and tell them I have quit my job and I'm sober now. And eventually, a couple of years later, I'm becoming a farmer and moving in with this crazy gardener that I met. And everybody thinks I'm crazy. So perhaps this story is just one more.
So why were you drawn to this farming? I know you realized that, that food was like, makes you sick, carcinogenic, plastic, basically, I guess you would call it. Yeah, I understand that concept of it, but you were just like, because, you could have been, about the consciousness. It could have been about psychedelics. It could have been about helping disabled children, going to a school, night courses, whatever it may be. Why farming?
Yeah, I moved back to Illinois. I was like, I'm going to quit being a corporate IT project manager. I can't do that anymore. I'm going to, I'm really into food. I had cut out sugar. I was learning to cut out processed food. And I started a course to learn how to be a nutritional therapy practitioner. This is a person who heals people with food instead of pharmaceuticals. Nutritional Therapy Association is a great association. I started taking a course through them, and I was like, I'm going to become a healer. I'm going to heal people with food the way I've healed myself with food. I believe that changing the way I ate helped me recover from alcoholism and recover from lots of things, anxiety, being shut off from my spiritual life, all of that. And so I was just like going to school, an online course, living with my parents to become a nutritional therapy practitioner. I was talking everybody's ear off that I knew about the power of food. And you can see, once I get going, I get really excited about a topic. I think I was boring everyone. But I had one friend who said, you should meet my cousin. He's a crazy gardener and he talks about food all the time like you do. You should meet him.
Okay.
And she drove me to his garden. He was outside working in his garden. This was when I was planning to go become a Buddhist nun, by the way. I had no intention. I was also had sworn off of romance and men. And I was really.
Oh yeah, men. Oh, don't get me started with men. I am a comic, by the way. I do stand up too. So, all right. If you give me a little door opening, I'm going to step through the door, Becca.
So anyway, I walked into his garden, looked in his eyes. We started talking about food, staring at each other, standing up in the garden, and just talked for 2 hours about food and healing and processed food and conspiracy theories. It was the first person who ever would just let me go there with everything. And I did a weird witchy thing that first day I was talking to him in the garden. I have his long hair. I was running my fingers through my hair nervously as we were talking, and I had a big wad of hair in my hand. And for some reason, I threw it on his kale, which was a very rude thing to do. I wouldn't like it now if somebody threw hair on kale. But he called me later and said, I found your hair. And I think that I was like casting a spell by putting some of myself into his garden. I had this impulse to mark territory, and I claimed the kale.
At least subconsciously, yes. I got it.
Yeah. Anyway, we talked, and in that first day that I met him, it was in the summer of 2018, I said, you should be selling these vegetables. He's like, I just grow them for myself. It's just a hobby. And I said, you need to start selling them. I'm going to help you sell them. We're going to do a market this summer. And I was just so focused. We have to do this. I had nothing going on. So I was like, I'll help this guy get a little market garden going, and then I can go join the monastery, whatever.
Well, think about it. Think about it. Yeah, there's 2 things converging, actually 3 things converging. Your openness to the medicine and food. You met this person who was listening to you, who's into medicine and food, and then you take your background in your business, and you were like, well, that's lacking one more thing. That's a 3-run home run, to use a baseball analogy. That's great. There's things like that. Just sometimes, I don't know how religious you are. I don't, what do you have, a tapestry behind you? Did you crochet that? I don't know. What it is, but sometimes there's a calling in life that will happen and you won't see it at the beginning. And then later you'll look back and go, oh, that was an interesting fork in the road. And you seem to be, because you look extremely happy, and that makes me happy. You know what I mean? So, this is incredible. I really love, like I say, that you found what you like to do, and it's great.
Thank you. I am happy. And, that was my eyes were open to a lot of things, including that experience that I had with the elves or whatever. That experience.
Pam was killing it. Go, Pam. Pam just popped up your website.
So that opened my eyes to like some things like the government is probably lying to us and the medical system is probably trying to kill us. And a lot of those things came to light. I met Jared, my partner now, and we started the farm in 2018. Little did we know 2 years later what would hit. A lot of people from my old life who knew me back in Albuquerque say, how did you, especially during the pandemic when everything was shutting down and people were like, are we going to run out of food in the grocery stores? People were saying to me, how did you know to start homesteading? How did you know to get in a sustainable situation? I have tons of stored food. I know how to grow a whole garden. I can feed myself with eggs and vegetables. How did you know? They say, I didn't know. I was divinely guided or extremely lucky. I
Or
fell
it's just
into this
cool.
situation where I was completely set up. I was set up, and me and Jared, right away, the first time we heard about there's going to be this treatment that you put in your arm for this pandemic, we looked at each other and said, are you doing it? And he said, hell no. And I said, good, I'm not doing it either. And we never even had to talk about it again. We just knew that that was not for us. And that all of that, we're not, that isn't real. That's one of the things, like, the veil was lifted and I was like, none of that.
Yeah.
We're eating real food.
You guys do me a favor. When it comes to that whole situation, go back and look at the Nuremberg Treaty and tell me which one of those that they didn't break. Just one.
Right.
Just give me one.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the good stuff and the positivity. What is just cool. There's something so, what's the word I'm looking for? So grounding, so basic, so honest. When you take your hands, you put something into the soil, it grows, and you eat it, and you get to feed your family and yourself. And it's a connection that we are now missing. And I think people are yearning for that, whether it be through spirituality, religion, meditation. But I think if you start, because my buddy Magical Journey on here, he was like, food is a very good place to start. It's a very good place to start. And I think if you start and you get your body in order, because your body and your mind are not separate. They are connected. When one is sick, the other one will be sick as well. It could be either way. I've dealt with this myself, and I'm still dealing with it in many cases. Not many, but a few. And if you get that one right first, then a lot of other things may fall in line for you. There's people out there who are having issues in this world, and many different issues. There's a lot of craziness going on nowadays, especially in the media. They want us to pick sides and hate everybody, but it's all a scheme. They want, because I was talking to a guy yesterday. Hopefully that podcast comes out. I was having some serious audio issues. He sounds great. I sound like Mr. Potato Head with a sock in his mouth or something, with a big buzz in the background. So that's going to be a lot of post-editing. But he was saying that fear vibrates on 4 megahertz and love vibrates on 500 and something megahertz. So if you know that, then all they do is feed you fear. There's a word for it. Don't be offended. They call it fear porn. That's what they call it, because you're addicted to it. And they have you on this cycle. They have you on the train. They keep you going in one direction. And if you can consciously know that's what's going on, and don't be afraid about it, and just know this is the game, because sometimes truth can be scary. Kind of close that down a little bit and fix your diet. Then I would feel that's a lot of positive things can change in your life.
Yeah, I believe that food carries energy. If you just think about an apple that was picked in another country and rides on a truck, it's picked by a person maybe who doesn't make enough money, and he's got another job after he gets done picking apples, and he's exhausted and worried about his family. He picks that apple. His worry is transferred into that apple. The apple rides on a truck. The trees have been sprayed with chemicals. The tree has been tortured and starved. The apple sits on a truck. It goes to a grocery store. It gets sold to you by another cashier who is clicking a bunch of buttons on a computer to take your money and give you the apple. And nobody looks at each other, and everybody's in a hurry and angry. And you take that apple home and eat it. Compare that to coming to my farm, the market at my farm, You can drive past the apple trees when you come in up the driveway. You can
Yes.
see me picking the apples, and I'll look you in the eye when I hand you that apple, and you can see that I'm happy. You can see the love that I put into my farm. That energy, that apple is going to heal you so much more. So I would urge everyone, you probably don't live in central Illinois, to come to my farm, but make friends with the farmer anywhere that you can, because your food carries energy. And so know the people who make your food. If you eat macaroni and cheese made by somebody who loves you, it just tastes better than mac and cheese that a stranger made, even if it's the exact same box, the exact same recipe. It's because
small things with great love. Small things with great love. Whether when you plant something, you give the plant love, it grows. If you cook something and you give it love, it's more enjoyed. If you see a person on the street that you don't know, and you just say hi. There's a person behind the counter that works at Walgreens, and they have the little name tag. You're like, hey, how are you doing today, Trisha? They kind of go, wait a minute, I am human. Oh my God, I do exist. I'm not doing a remedial job so I can pay for my existence. Do little things with great love, and the things around you will change. That's for sure.
And I get to eat right now. I eat probably 80 or 90% of the food that I eat is very local. Most of it from my farm. I mostly eat eggs and vegetables from my farm in central Illinois.
Yeah, where in Central? Can you give us a little bit more of a coordinate? You don't have to tell us exactly where you're at, but you can say close to town, Smithfield, or...
It's really not close to anything. Lake Shelbyville is a large lake that we live next to. It's kind of in between Springfield, Illinois, the capital, and Champaign-Urbana, where the University of Illinois is. I am a little jewel of a vegetable farm in the midst of a lot of corn and soybeans.
So if anybody listening to this wants to maybe go out there and see Becca, hey, Becca, go pick an apple for me. And she climbs up the tree. You know, she's probably very good at it at this point. She goes up the tree and picks you an apple. Go and contact her through her website. And then, and she'll go out there and maybe show you a tour. You can do that. That's why I guess we're asking exactly where it is in Illinois, because they're interested. People seem to be quite interested.
Go to the website. It'll have directions and tell you exactly where it is. I would love for you to go to the website and look at it. And I want to talk a little about my energy healing too, which I started doing.
Sure.
I do sessions with people all around the country. I do them on the phone or on Zoom. There's a section on my website that is about my energy healing work. If you read through it, I put all of this magic spells on the webpage. If you read it and it won't be of any benefit to you, you'll just move right on. But if you read it and it's something vibes with you, I'm sure that it will be of benefit to do a session with me. And I just have helped people I believe that we're all on an awakening journey. I was given this gift by the story that I told you, where my eyes were open, and it's open to like joy and hope. What you said, Tom, it's so true. There's a trick being played on us to be in fear, to be polarized, to see everyone as our enemies. And I'm telling you, that is all an illusion. And you step right beyond that, and it is beautiful. And I can help people find that in themselves and remove those energy blocks. So it's on my site, and if you try it.
It's a conspired, for some reason it's being conspired to keep us on a lower energy vibrational level, because when people are afraid because they know psychology, then you can tell them anything and they'll believe it. Or you can tell them to do something, like do some type of medical thing, and they'll do it because they're afraid. And that's what they do. And we're not here about that. There's certain things that I can't talk about, which is another reason guys should go over and check me out on Rumble. But so the energy healing. Now, my buddy Magical Journey, we're not going to talk to. I let him speak for himself, but he's down that path a little bit as well. And so I've been running into, I guess it's what I'm putting out, but so what do you mean by what do you do? Are you using spells? Are you using like certain like gemstones? What are you doing exactly, so people can get a concept? So, one more question before we go into that. Can they reach you through the website for that too, or is it like some other personal thing?
No, it's through that. and you can
It's a
book
website
right
too.
on the same.
Okay.
There's a page there called Interdimensional, and you can book right on there and read about the kind of sessions that I do. So I do, I'm real good at reading people's energy. I've done it my whole life. Since I was a kid, I can see, I just know what people are really feeling. It was really confusing to me as a child because usually what people were saying and what they were presenting was different than what their energy was saying. And so just people are masking all the time, and I can see behind the masks. And it's one of the reasons I think I became an alcoholic, is just to shut down this intuition that I have.
Okay.
So, but really, when someone books a session with me, sometimes it's somebody I know through something, but sometimes it's a complete stranger who heard me on a podcast or heard about me some other way. I get their name, pretty much just a name, and I meditate the morning of the session, and images and phrases come to me, and I just take note of them. The most random things, maybe I see animals, maybe I see something kind of specific, maybe it's a phrase. I just make notes about whatever comes to me when I just meditate on their name and just like ask the universe, how can I help this person heal? Then we get on the phone or Zoom, and as soon as I start hearing their voice, just the vibrations of their voice, I know what's going on with them, and it's called clairsentience, which is just like a knowing, and I just know what to say to help them heal themselves. And all of my magical powers that I'm talking about, everybody can do this. I don't have anything special. I'm just a person who has tapped into it. But anybody who works with me, you are really healing yourself, and I'm just like working with you to help you find. I'd like to say that I help people remember who they are.
Wow, that's an interesting, because I feel that too. I can talk to somebody, read them, and know how to talk to them in a way into which they can hear me and listen.
Yeah.
Not like listen, but like, because you can teach somebody all you want about whatever subject it is. If you're not able to communicate that, and your syntax, your lack of eye contact, or whatever it is that may be, you can't reach that person. And now actually, it might be something that they need to learn, because you see that. So, like, how did you develop I guess I'm asking, how did you develop your people skills? Like, where did that come about? Because if you're being an alcoholic, excuse me, I'm sure, like, there is a part where you're just like, I don't want to talk to people. Like, how did you develop those skills?
Yeah, I don't feel like I have good people skills, but I have a lot of passion and a lot of need for connection. And I was shut down for almost my whole adult life. And so I just have emotions bursting out of me, and I want to connect with other people. But yeah, you're right. I don't have a lot of social skills. I almost wonder if I am on the autism spectrum or something, because I'm a very odd person. I've never really had friends.
Really?
Yeah, people either like really get me and like me, or just think I'm a complete weirdo. And most people think I'm a complete weirdo. Thank you.
How does that make you? Okay, I'm going to break in. How does that make you feel when someone says to you, like, where you get that vibe that they think you're a complete weirdo? What does that make you feel? You know what I'm saying? What I'm asking is, because I get that a lot too. And a lot of my, a lot of people on the show, there's people in particular I'm talking about, they just don't get you. Now, what it used to make me feel like was awful, And then it came to the point where it's like, I have to accept who I am. I have to, because I have to live with me. When the lights go out, there's only me to talk to, So I think a lot of that, like if people have issues with that non-acceptance, a lot of people either shut down on the inside or they lash out on the outside. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, thank you. That is such a good question. I was just shut down. I didn't try to talk to people. Most of my life, I felt misunderstood. And I still think I am misunderstood, but the people who, it's almost like some people can't even see me. I feel like I'm invisible to a lot of people, and the people who can see me just get me. And yeah, the awkward ones, we just need to find each other, and then we and we can be together. It made me feel terrible for a lot of my life, and it was another big reason that I think I drank. I also felt really rejected by God because I was raised a Christian, pretty strict church, and everybody in the church that I belonged to would get a call from God. At one point, God would say, "I've called you to me. Now come and give your life to Jesus." And I never got the call. And so somewhere in my
Oh, wow.
mind, I developed that like Jesus didn't want me when I was very young, because I just
Wow.
like was waiting for him to call, and he never called. So I was like, and
Right.
then with my awkward people skills, and just like I used to try to explain myself, and it would just go so badly. And I really believed when I started drinking and kept drinking, I thought I'm just defective. Like I
Okay.
just came into earth just
Magical Journey is a bad.
uh,
He's a bad man. If you know what I'm saying. Because he's down. He goes down these paths too. He goes, "What color of the rainbow are you most attracted to, or most pulled to?" Yeah, I guess that's the best way to say that, dude.
just the
Is
first
there
thing
any
that came to my mind was a violet.
violets or purple? All right. So you're around the
But
same
a
age,
purple.
same area I am in. Purple, blue. Yeah. Okay. So what is that? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it
So
made me
what does that? What does that mean, dude? My buddy, Magical Daniel. What does that mean? We'll wait. He's over there typing, just typing away right now. Yeah, yes, I knew it. Oh, he goes, yes, I knew it. Okay, yeah, okay. We'll do this on a separate one. You talk to her privately. If she's allowed me to do so, I'll give you her email because he's had a very interesting life as well.
I would love that.
His episode is coming up too, guys. I've had
Cool.
Magical Journey on, hour and 45 minutes. There's a lot of buzzing in it, but that's going to be somewhere towards the end of June. That's going to be a lot of fun. So maybe you can contact him, or if it's okay with you, Becca, I'll give him your email because
That'd be fun.
he's he's sees himself as an outcast, but he's like he opens it up. He opens up and he's like, you know what? It's okay. I'm powerful. It's okay, baby. I love me. I'm weird, but so is everyone else in their own way. And the whole thing
Yeah.
about the Jesus calling or not calling you, now there's this social pressure that is involved in something like that. First of all, I believe some people have a real genuine experience. I'm not going to neglect that. Some people are just lying to fit in.
Yeah.
And you were true to yourself, which is the first. I think that's an amazing thing to do. And to feel that rejection, but also being true to yourself is a very strong show of your character. And I think that you should love yourself more and be commended to yourself for that. I think that's an amazing thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think I'm flawed anymore. I got free of that when I
Yeah, we're still flawed, I promise you.
I don't think I'm broken. I don't think God makes mistakes or makes rejects. He doesn't have broken people. And so I think we're all whole, and we're all trying to get back to wholeness. And there's nothing wrong with me. The people that understand my vibration, they get it. And I don't need a ton of people, but I'm able to talk to the wonderful customers who come to my farm, and I love them, and I'm able to connect with people. When I do energy healing sessions, like we go deep. I get to talk to people about their shadows. I get to talk to people about their ancestors. Like those are the conversations I would like to be having. I don't want to have to talk about the weather or talk about gossiping about what somebody down the street is doing. I'd rather talk about your shadow and your trauma, and so I get to talk the way I want to talk on those sessions. That's one of the reasons they're so precious to me.
That's kind of like why I started this channel because, my favorite people in the world to talk to are comics because, especially if they're my best friends, we rip into each other and it's hilarious. But there's some people who just will not listen to those kind of things because they don't want to. They want to, watch Friends or whatever. That's a nice old reference. And you know, and but this is the place to come to. This is where we do this kind of thing. And we're coming to the end of the sessions. I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you would spend time to come on and share this story. And thanks for everyone for listening to it. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me, and thanks. I do feel the energy of this community is so welcoming, and I feel such relief and joy that I got to tell this story and felt heard, and you responded to it, everyone. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now, one more time for everybody listening to this in perpetuity. Could you tell us one more time about your website and where they can find you?
Yes, Regenerative. It's just like it sounds. RegenerativeLifeFarm.com. And there's a tab. If you could read all about the farm in there, read about the chickens, and then there's a tab that says energy healing, and you could read about my energy healing and book a session right there. And there's a tab that shows other podcasts that I've blabbed on, if you want to check that out.
Yeah, that's great. Once again, thank you very much for coming on the Eye of Jupiter. And stick around for a second, and I'd like to talk to you in the green room afterwards. Okay? Namaste.
You have been listening to the Eye of Jupiter podcast. Remember, if you have any strange occurrences or stories or anything you'd like to share, please drop me an email at theeyeofjupiterpodcast@gmail.com and you'll be on the show. And remember, we are the Eye and we are aware. Thank you.